Good morning, everyone. Erin and I are playing tag. I'm trying to mute, and she's trying to unmute. So I think we're all here together now. So welcome everyone to our session this morning. My name is Andrea Hansen. I'm a benefits advisor at Sutton Benefits and Pension. And I know most of you were with us on Tuesday, and welcome back for everybody that was with us on Tuesday. And we're excited to be together again. And of course, we have some new people joining us for today's session. So our webinar today is called Health Habits for the Overworked, Overwhelmed, and Just Over It. So who can raise their hand to those expressions? So our special guest speaker today, Nicole Povey, is going to teach us all about easy ways to increase our energy, reduce our stress, and just have more fun. And I don't know about all of you, but I need to have more fun these days. So I'm really thrilled we can be here together to learn about why habits matter and discover the biggest needle movers for our health. And I absolutely love this topic of habits. I am a student of habits. I read a ton of books and put them into practice in my life. And one of my favorites from last year was Atomic Habits. Add this to your reading list if you haven't already. And I know Nicole's got some quotes from that author in her session today. So again, this is going to be a perfect complement to our session with Dr. Fleury on Tuesday. And with this session today, the chat box is open. And so if you have comments, just something you want to add and engage with everybody participating, please do so. If you need technical help, Erin Baldick is helping us behind the scenes, and you can ask her for questions if you need any help. So as I mentioned on Tuesday, we host sessions like this because we want to help businesses, professionals, and families to simplify, preserve, and enhance their wealth and well-being so you can have an impact in your world in a meaningful way. And just a note to thank those that reached out after Tuesday and just sharing my story with you. I had a great conversation with Mom following that. And although it was a bit emotional for her listening to me share that story, she was very happy that I did, because she feels that there's still a lot of work to be done about reducing the stigma around mental health. And as we've learned, mental health, it's like a spectrum, just like our physical health. And, it ranges from flourishing to languishing. And we all have temporary mental health problems. And this is, what we're here today to learn is just best practices on prevention and managing stress and building resilience so we can move closer to the flourishing end of the spectrum. And this is what I love to do. I love working with our clients and helping them just be their best and take care of themselves so they can help take care of their employees and their families at work. So Nicole, I'm going to formally introduce her, and then she's going to take it away. So Nicole Povey is a certified health coach and works with career professionals wherever they are who struggle with exhaustion, stress, and gaining weight. She helps them increase their energy, lose weight, and have fun while doing it. Nicole loves adventure, being outside in the water on a mountain, and also loves being peaceful, reading, running, playing the piano. And she's passionate about her own health journey and is definitely thankful for the lessons that it's taught her, especially that she no longer has to choose between being calm or getting things done. She can have both and more. And Nicole, I have known her for many years, probably close to 20 years, and so happy to stay connected with her. professionally and personally. And I'm just really excited that she's here with us today to teach us. So Nicole, it's your turn.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you, Andrea. Oh, great, you're there. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And there's so many juicy points of note in everything you said so far, especially the idea of moving to that flourishing end of the spectrum, but that it is a wide spectrum. And today we're going to talk about all kinds of options and ways that we can get there and ways that we can make it easy. So I'm Nicole Povey, as Andrea said, and welcome to our webinar today. I'm at home in my favorite yellow shirt in the comfort of my own home. And so I welcome you from wherever you're tuning in from. And I'm thankful to Andrea and the entire Sutton team for having me here today. So I'm really excited to get started. I am a health coach, like Andrea said, and I do work with career professionals who struggle with exhaustion, stress, and gaining weight as well. I help them increase their energy and lose that weight and reduce their stress and have more fun at the same time. So myself, I'm a career professional too, and I've always been passionate about my own health, a lover of fitness and physical activity, and involved in the community. And especially, I'm endlessly curious, almost to the point of annoying sometimes, where my mom and my sister and I might be in the same room, and my husband's trying to tell a story, and he might say, "Does that really matter? Really, do we need to talk about that right now?" And we're just pounding away at questions, wondering this and wondering that, and how do all the pieces fit together? So anyway, I loved Andrea's story on Tuesday, where she talked about her mom's health journey, and her mom was present on the webinar, and she talked about all the challenges and triumphs that she was feeling. And one thing that I remember is, Andrea, you said that day that I wish I would have known then what I know now. And what would that look like? And that really resonated for me, especially with my dad and his health. My father suffered and eventually passed away from complications related to heart disease. And so I wonder what it would have been like for him if he would have, or we would have acknowledged and talked about and learned about easy steps that we can take to improve our health habits and what they can sustain, and how we can grow in the long term. How could we have made it easier? So I thought about that a lot after Tuesday's webinar. I had a lot of very natural curiosity growing up, and I didn't know how well this was going to serve me in my own health. But what I've learned in my own journey is this profound realization, and it's the power of replacing judgment with curiosity. And that's what we're going to do a lot today. We're going to look at all the options and get curious about what might be best for you, because what might be best for you in your health might not be the same as how it might feel or resonate or show up in somebody else's body. So today we're going to learn about why habits matter and why nourishment is about more than just what you eat. We're going to discover, like Andrea said, big needle movers for your health, especially the 4-pillar system that I take my clients through to get lasting results. So we're going to make it fun and easy and figure out how to increase your energy now. So I hope that sounds good to everyone. I'm curious if you ever lay down at night and feel like you start to create some of your best ideas. And I've often wondered why that is. I'm often inspired when I lay down or a little bit further into the night, and I've come to the conclusion that it is because of openness and space of mind to receive good ideas, because, well, maybe they're just good ideas to me, but I feel like those ideas were always there, and maybe they weren't fully reachable because of the fullness of our day, fullness of actions and ideas, that mental clutter that's taking up space. So I'm super excited to be here, and I would like to invite you to consider 3 things. So the first today is that you maintain that curious openness and just wonder, how might that impact my life? And number 2, consider how this could be easy. How could we push the easy button just for once in our lives and make something easy and fun at the same time? And number 3, and this is really important, is just notice what comes up for you. Notice what you observe about how you're feeling during our time together, and maybe write it down. You don't have to write down all the things we talk about, but just notice how you're feeling about the things we talk about. That's powerful. So the first question I want to ask today is, what do you desire most in your life and your health? Or put another way, if no one needed you, what would you do more of? So you can go ahead and put that in the chat, or you can just write it down on a notepad beside you, or you can just keep it sort of top of mind. What would you do more of if you could? And so the answer to this question is, well, I guess the bigger question is, what will determine what you actually do? And the answer to that is our habits. And so habits actually determine what we do on a day-to-day basis. Did you want to?
Yeah, I want to
Absolutely.
jump in. I just wasn't sure, Nicole, if you have a presentation because we don't see your slides yet.
Oh, you don't see my slides?
No, and
Oh my goodness.
we're following along fantastic. I just know you have a beautiful presentation. So
Oh,
I just wanted to pause you.
sure. Oh my goodness. Well, look
We're
at this.
good.
Here we
There you
are good.
go.
Here we are.
See,
That's
this
the
helps all
question.
these different learners because I can
Oh my
hear and
gosh.
now I can see and it's beautiful.
I'm so
Fantastic.
sorry. I
No
thought I
worries.
clicked that. Okay, we're back on track. This
We're
is
back
great.
on.
Here we are. So that was the big question. What would you do if you could do more of it? And the question that I posed back to you is, what do you think will determine what you actually do? And the answer to that is, ta-da, our habits. And so our habits determine what we actually do. And we're going to talk about that today. And then I'm going to take you through those 4 pillars of my programs that I talked about. So we're going to ask the question, how do habits form? Why do they matter? And can we change them? So first, I'd like to invite you to a poll. And so we're going to ask you a few things throughout this session just to keep you interested and engaged. But I'm curious, on a scale of 1 to 5, how happy are you with your health habits? 1 being very happy and 5 being very unhappy. So you have about 10 seconds. So I'm curious how you feel about that. Do we have results yet? Oh, okay. So most people feel moderately happy about their health habits. That's great. And some people aren't sure, and some people feel relatively unhappy. Okay, so we're sort of in the middle of that spectrum. That's great. And our second poll is going to ask you, what is your biggest health challenge today? Do you feel like it's weight, stress, maybe low energy, overwhelm, confusion about what to eat? Maybe you feel like there's lack of movement in your life, or you're feeling pain. Maybe there's no fun or there's injury. So go ahead and just note, what do you feel like your biggest health challenge is today?
See, we can only select one, Nicole.
Yeah, which one? Which one do you feel is your biggest?
The biggest.
Do you feel like you'd like to select more than one?
Some days, yes.
Okay. Yeah. We're talking about stress is about 30% and weight was about 24%. Those are the 2 big ones, and low energy. Well, this is great. We're in the right place today. Those are the things we're talking about: stress, energy, and weight management. And so the good news is that our habits are great. How do they form? The first question is, how do they form? So habits are great because our brain repeatedly knows what to do. They're simple, automated solutions to things. So it helps create freedom for our brain because habits take care of the simple things. They take care of the things like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes or cutting your toast, just like the picture on here indicates. Maybe you're a horizontal cutter or a vertical cutter or a diagonal cutter. So habits are usually triggered by something. They're usually triggered by something like a craving. And often we don't crave the thing that we're doing, but rather the feeling that it creates for us. So I think about habits often, and I'm so curious about what triggers certain behavior. There was a time when I worked in Melbourne, and when I would come home from work, I was living in a condo complex, and there was this beautiful bowl of Granny Smith apples sitting in the foyer, and I would have a Granny Smith apple every day after work, and I loved the taste and the feeling. But since then, 20 years later, I'm still eating Granny Smith apples at night, and I wonder, I know it's nature's toothbrush and it's good for me, but do I eat it because it tastes good, because it fills a space in my body, or because I connect it to a feeling of love and appreciation for that opportunity that I had to work overseas? It's curious. I also wonder, I'm curious if anybody on this in this webinar is from Saskatoon, and maybe you spent time downtown at a place called the Pat, like I did during university. That was a fun place to hang out and dance and have fun with your friends. And when that time was over and people came outside, there was a hot dog stand there. So I was always curious why someone did or did not buy something from the hot dog stand. Maybe it was the feeling they got from eating it after a night of dancing or drinking, or why did they do that thing? So the habit often delivers a reward that satisfies a desire or creates a pleasurable experience for you. It just feels good. So maybe that outside pat hot dog filled an empty stomach, or maybe it was comforting. Maybe it reminded you of something you ate when you were younger, or maybe it reminded you of a time in your youth or something at home. Hmm. So habits also have a positive intention. And you might wonder, is this always true? And the answer is it's almost always true about our habits. So you might wonder, what's the positive intention around smoking, for example? Well, maybe it helps keep you calm or helps you cope during stressful situations. Maybe your habit of eating ice cream when you come in the door at 5:30 had the positive intention of filling you up or helping you relax. So I'm curious, think of a habit that you have and ask yourself, what could the positive intention be around that habit? Maybe write that down. Just wonder. So I love this quote from Charles Duhigg. He wrote a book called The Power of Habit. And it's so true that although each habit might mean relatively little on its own, over time, the combined work of these habits can have a powerful impact on our success. So maybe it's true that our health habits might make a difference in how much energy we have or how strong our body is in fighting disease. And maybe our financial habits might make a difference in how much we save or how much we spend. And maybe our daily habits, like, for example, maybe making your bed or meditating, might make a difference in how productive we are in our daily work. So, although we can't always see it clearly and connect the dots, often our habits contribute directly to our happiness in the long term. And long term is the emphasis. So, over time, habits compound. They're going to build up for you one way or the other, good or bad. Habits are going to compound and build. And you can think about maybe the clutter or the mess that might build up in a kitchen or a garage because of cleaning or hoarding habits. Maybe the weight that might stay on because of eating habits. Or what about this? The knowledge that may or may not accumulate because of reading habits. How powerful is that? So, why do habits matter? There's some good news and then there's some bad news. So, the good news is you're safe. You can think less and do more things with ease. I love that about habits. You can look for cars before you cross the street so that you don't get hit. That's a habit. And you can tie your shoes before you head out so you don't trip and fall. Those are great things that keep us safe. But sometimes the bad news about our habits is maybe you stop paying attention to what you're doing and why. And maybe it's become true that those same habits are no longer serving you well. Maybe they're yesterday's solution. They're just old news. Maybe they're not today's solution. And the more bad news is maybe you have a low level of awareness of subconscious behavior that you no longer want. You don't want to be doing some of those things anymore. Maybe you do. Maybe some things are serving you well. But the big reason is ultimately, your habits matter because they help you become the type of person that you want to be or the type of person that you already are. And so I love this quote from James Clear. Andrea showed the book earlier. It's called Atomic Habits. And you might want to raise it again. One of my favorites. And it connects back to Charles Duhigg and his study of habits, and way back to Stephen Covey and his study on habits of highly effective people. And a lot of these studies reveal the same thing. And here it is, that having what we want in many areas of our life is about playing the long game with our habits. And maybe you won't recognize the impact right away, but as you repeat them, they add up to an impact that's much greater than the sum of each of those little individual parts. So just to repeat again, habits were about playing the long game. And I kind of imagine what it must have been like for Tim Hansen and Jay Stark at Sutton Wealth, what they might have said back to their clients back in March of 2020, when COVID was new and the stock market was hitting the bricks at an alarming rate. Maybe, I don't know this for sure, I didn't confirm with them either way, but maybe they said to their clients, don't panic. We're playing the long game. things will rebound if we stick with it. And they did. They did rebound. Markets returned eventually to more of their original sort of balanced state, and some investments actually increased. So maybe it wasn't immediate, but it was definite. And how does that relate to our habits and our health? Maybe it's not immediate, but it's probably going to be definite. So here's more good news. Can we change our health habits? And the answer is yes. Absolutely, we can. We can identify what we want to change, and then we can ask, what would I rather have instead? You can upgrade your habits. This is the key to creating not just good outcomes, like at the level of behavior change, but also aligning more with who you are and who you want to be. So change at the level of beliefs and identity. This is how we talk at the Health Coach Institute. All of us health coaches, we talk about behavior change sort of being the lightest level of change, but change at the level of behavior, of beliefs and identity being that deep transformational work that really is about who we become in the process. And so it's really important in changing habits to remove what your habit is connected to. So for smoking, for someone that smokes, maybe the cigarettes are in the car, and when they get out of work and they go sit in the vehicle, they're connected to that trigger. Maybe for someone who who likes to drink certain things, it's having that certain drink. Maybe it's pop, maybe it's beer at the front of the fridge. So when you open it, maybe that's the first thing you see. What if it's a social media habit? Maybe that's the first thing you see when you open your eyes in the morning. So what would it look like if you kept that device away from your bed and you made it hard to do the bad habit and easy to do the good habit instead? So we can ask ourselves, what needs to be in place so that you have inevitable success? What can be in your physical environment so that you stay on track and committed? That's support and accountability. What do we need to do in order to ensure success with our habits? So we're going to get there when we talk specifically about the habits and the 4 pillars coming up. So number 4 is, how important is it to surround ourselves with like kind, or people who engage in the same habits and activities that we ourselves want more of? Maybe it's going to the gym. Maybe people that are more physically active inspire more physical activity in people. What if it's the opposite? What if it's people that engage in drinking a lot of coffee and gossip? Maybe we get more of that if we hang around with those people. Or what if it's living with someone who piles up papers and enjoys a lot of clutter? What would that look like in your life and with your behavior? So when we create a community of like-minded people that engage in activities and behaviors that we want, we're more likely to have that. So I love this idea. Very importantly, make it fun and easy, especially fun and especially easy. What if it was a baby step? We talked about that with Betty Ann Hagee in Building Resilience 1.0. What if we took that baby step and celebrated that? So instead of just looking to the marathon, because we maybe thought COVID was a sprint, and it's turning out it's looking like a marathon. So instead of in turn running that marathon, or maybe running a 5K or a 10K challenge, what if instead we just put our shoes on and headed outside for 10 minutes? That's the start of an amazing habit. And most importantly, and I love this, here it is, ta-da, the most important thing, like there aren't many things that are 100% true. But I know this is one of those things. Do you know, like when the fuel light of your vehicle comes on, the low fuel light? This happens to me all the time. In fact, it's the only thing that triggers me to get gas, unfortunately. So when you see that fuel light come on, it indicates that your vehicle is close to running out of gas. 100% of the time it works. Well, unless it's in disrepair, of course. But the same applies to this statement too, where not too many things apply universally. Sometimes we look toward the finish line, and that's a realistic end game for the future, but not a realistic action step for today. So instead of the end game, what if our definition of success was arriving at the first point in the journey rather than the final destination? Is that worth celebrating? I have a client that recently said she couldn't stand the clutter in her pantry, fridge, and garage. She wanted it all cleaned up. I thought, whoa, that is really ambitious. I love it. But instead, we eventually agreed that one box in the garage was a good place to start. Maybe it wouldn't make that much of a difference and she wouldn't feel super great about it, but we're wondering sort of what ripple effect that might have. So the next week, she was really excited to report that that one box was cleaned up, taken off to recycling, And I could feel her excitement and pride even over our devices because we were working virtually. And that's the feeling that we're trying to capture more of as we build our habits. So we create that feeling of success and pride in each step we take, so habits become just what we do, these new habits that we most want. So here we are at the start of pillar 1, and I'd like to ask you another question, unless there are questions in the chat, or Andrea, you have any questions. But what I'd like to know is, which of these are you experiencing in your daily life, if any? And I think we can do multiple choice here. Indigestion, upset stomach, food sensitivities, cravings, fogginess, trouble sleeping, confusion about food or gaining weight. Are you experiencing these things daily? Ah, cravings, trouble sleeping. Yeah, gaining weight. Yeah, we have a whole mix. They're fairly well represented across the board. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So the first pillar of my program that we're going to explore is this concept of mindful eating. And so I love this quote from one of my favorite, well, actually, what we're going to talk about first is the idea of mindful eating. What is it? And then why does it matter? And what can you do? So this is a favorite quote of mine from a naturopathic doctor, and he's a medical doctor and also the director of the Cleveland Functional Medicine Clinic. And he practices a similar type of medicine to Dr. Jackie, whom we saw on Tuesday. And it's where the focus is not on treating the symptoms, but rather on the underlying causes of health issues and how they can be treated with lifestyle change. It's so true that the food we eat has the power for so much good in our bodies, but also detriment. And so it's also true that nourishment isn't only about what we eat, but sometimes it's about when we eat, how we eat, why we eat, or maybe even who we are being when we eat. So this concept of mindful eating helps us to explore all that. So what is it? Here we go. Pillar number 1, let's dive in. So mindful eating is about engaging all of your senses, eating on purpose with awareness, noticing how you feel when you eat. What do you hear? How does it taste? What do you see or smell? And paying attention to the experience of the food before and after you eat it. Do you feel like you have more or less energy? I love the idea of what's healthy for one person might not be healthy for you. We explore this in our mindful eating as well, that there are as many right diets as there are people on the planet. And your body's the best lab around. It knows exactly what's happening for you. And you can rely on it to almost always give you the right answers, or at least tell you what's not working. This is really important, being curious about your body's innate wisdom. Dr. Jackie talked a lot about this on Tuesday, the connection between brain health and gut health. And what does that mean? And so it turns out that your gut is like your second brain, and eating mindfully is about listening to your gut wisdom. So how do you feel when you're stressed or worried, for example? Do you recognize how you feel it in your body? For me, it feels like I have a direct connection from my brain to my gut. And when I feel stress or worry, it almost is like a path is lit up that identifies all the upset and triggers that I'm feeling right in that moment. Very powerful, that gut wisdom in our body. And finally, this is our why. Your relationship with food impacts your health more, sometimes more than the food, or at least as much as the food. And instead of judging yourself for eating the wrong things, rather ask instead, how am I feeling in this moment? Because by this point in our life, we're probably quite good at feeling like we should do this or should do that. We're really good at shoulding all over ourselves. But what if it was neither good nor bad? What if we just observed? So mindful eating, the next question is, why does it matter? Well, mindful eating matters for a lot of reasons. There are a lot of conflicting messages out there. Maybe you read the Canada Food Guide and it's changed over time. Maybe it's confusing for you. Do you wonder, do I have to eat kale all the time? What if I hate kale? Do I have to make a smoothie every day? I don't want to do that either. Is milk bad? What about wine? Can I have wine? Is there good chocolate and bad chocolate? And what is the deal with sugar? So the concept of mindful eating helps you figure out what's right for your body, because there's a lot of conflicting messages out there and we're just not sure sometimes. And it's true that we can create better brain and heart health with more quality foods and actually reduce the likelihood of diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, and many more. So many things may improve depending on the type of food we eat and how, like our focus, our look and feel of our skin, the way we sleep, and our weight management. And finally, mindful eating matters because cooking and eating doesn't have to be hard. Do you like to paint like I do? I love to paint, like paint by number, but also paint rooms. And so I feel like mindful eating is a lot like painting. There is a lot of prep time, like washing walls or filling holes or sanding, filling, all that. But once you get into it, the painting isn't really that hard, or it has such a great result, you want more. The same is true of our eating. Sometimes the prep can seem overwhelming, but once you start to do it and you fall in love with the results that your body is feeling, you might just want more. So here's where it starts to get juicy. What can we do? Here's some takeaways for us. Number one is slow down. We can take our time with our meal. I wonder how fast you typically eat. And I wonder if you would be surprised at how fast that was. Maybe you could try doubling or tripling that time. Set a timer if it would help. Slowing down your chewing, set your fork down between bites, engaging in conversation, try to stretch the whole thing out and pay attention to all of your senses at the same time. I wonder what you might learn about yourself and your body and the volume of food that it feels good to eat. Maybe you might find you were overeating. Slowing the whole thing down is a very powerful way to improve our digestion and nutrient absorption. So I love the idea of creating a magic plate. I'm going to show you what a magic plate looks like shortly, but it's a balanced one, eating quality grains, vegetables, and protein. And I'll show you that right away. But finally, eating foods closest to their natural state. What does that look like? Ask yourself, did someone make this thing or is it found in nature? I love in Dr. Mark's book, he talks about the idea that nature made an avocado, but not a Twinkie. And I love, it's true that the Twinkie probably contains a lot of things that end in OSE, all the various forms of sugar. So sometimes it's fun to find local sources of vegetables and fruit or meat as well. And in Saskatoon, there are lots of Saskatoon and surrounding areas. There are lots of local sources of good food and also restaurants that serve locally sourced food as well. Sometimes labels have a lot of ingredients. Watch for the ones that have 5 or less. Those are the ones that typically are the best and closest to their natural state. And if they are ingredients you recognize, great. If they aren't ingredients you recognize and you can't understand the word, maybe it's less like food than more. So here's our magic plate. I love this. And this is an example of what you might keep top of mind when you're making a meal. What would it look like if you put a third of your plate looked like high quality protein, and a third of your plate contained vegetables, and the other third contained dense starchy vegetables or grains? So I think we know what quality protein looks like. It's fish or chicken, pork, turkey, sausage, salmon, you name it, sardines, anchovies, super healthy, scallops, tuna. And what if our green vegetables look like kale and spinach, romaine, arugula, broccoli, peas, green beans, all those good green things? And then what if we had grains and starchy things on the other third, like sweet potatoes or even real potatoes? They're higher in fiber with the skin on. Quinoa, corn on the cob, cauliflower, gluten-free pasta, and brown rice. Look at all the options. So it actually makes food look like fun instead of a chore. How could we make a more colorful magic plate? How magic would that be for our body? So we're moving on to pillar number 2, and it's about movement. I love this. Our next poll is up, and we're going to ask you, how do you feel about physical activity? Do you 1 love it or 5 quite dislike it? How do you feel about movement in your life? I'm curious. We're going to ask those 3 questions. What does it mean? Why does it matter? And what can we do about it? Here's the results. Love it. Oh, that's great. 55% love physical activity. Wonderful. Okay, so maybe we'll talk about something new you didn't know about physical activity or what your options were to even get more active. Great. Thank you for sharing that. So what is movement? Movement is about getting your heart beating, your blood flowing, and it's also about how we interact with others in the world. It's about how we build experiences and connection, even from the time we were little, like the way we reached for things on our high chair or the way we crawled and put dust balls in our mouth. So it's true that our ancestors, they didn't need to work out the same way that we do. They were working when they were walking, running, crawling, throwing, digging, squatting, doing whatever they needed to do to survive. They didn't go to an exercise class when they ran to get places or danced and celebrated rituals, all those things. So working out is what we call what our bodies have always needed, um, and what our bodies have always loved and done naturally, those regular movements that sometimes we have lost or forgot as we got older, or maybe more busy, or sick, or tired, or overwhelmed. And so we may not hunt and roam for dinner the way we used to, or sometimes we opt for the elevator and taking the stairs, but our bodies still crave movement. It's something we've done from the time that we're really little. So the question is, why does it matter? Well, movement affects everything, all the systems in our body: digestion, metabolism, circulation, balance, stability, coordination, bone density, you name it, all of it. And Dr. Jackie touched a lot on many of our different systems on Tuesday in her webinar. So movement helps us build muscle strength that allows us to perform activities that require power, like walking, climbing, lifting, even opening things. Helps us develop stronger bones by putting pressure on those bones as we move. When you move, you engage your heart, and your heart muscle has to work less hard to pump more blood through your body, and it improves our muscles' ability to draw oxygen from the blood. Brain activity and focus increases. Look at all this good stuff. Movement improves blood flow to the brain and stimulates our ability to learn. It also protects our memory and creates an environment where more brain cells can grow. I was reading this article from the Harvard Medical School journal from 2016, and it connected movement to mental health and concluded that movement can affect the way we think and feel by making our fight or flight system, the sympathetic nervous system, less reactive. It went on to even say, in some cases, movement might be as effective as medication or therapy. Wow, how powerful is that? Yeah. So, what can we do? Here's the good stuff. We can make it, we can do it, and it can be easy. And these are powerful things that I do for myself and my clients. We can be specific, commit to movement like it's a sacred appointment, make it part of your calendar, block it in there. And maybe you think, I don't have time, or maybe you feel guilty for putting yourself first. Maybe you could ask yourself instead, what other good things might open up if I go to the gym or go out for a walk with my girlfriends? Maybe the opposite is true. Maybe you'll be a better parent, a better spouse, a better mentor, a better leader, or a better colleague. Maybe that would happen. Find something you love. We are all more likely to do something that is fun and easy versus unlikable or miserable. It's called reducing the friction. So instead of doing what somebody else is doing or what somebody tells you you should do, ask yourself, what have I always wanted to try? Or what do I really love? And do that instead. And finally, acknowledge that vitamin FA, or fresh air, is really powerful, especially during the day when the sun is out. And even throughout the winter, my dog Barkley and I, we spend an hour outside every day together, even on the coldest winter days. And I'm really thankful for him, because if it wasn't for him, I think sometimes I would just go to the car, or we go on ski trips as a family, but that would be the extent of outside time, because the kids are all grown up and we just don't do it. And being outside improves oxygen for brain health, improves concentration. And a really important point Dr. Jackie made on Tuesday is the idea of synthesizing more vitamin D from the sunshine, which can protect neurons in the brain. And its deficiency is linked to neurological disorders like dementia, autism, Parkinson's. So it's powerful. Okay.
I was just going to say, Nicole, I don't know for others listening, but I've definitely found over the last year, I was in a very good routine in the mornings and doing my workouts every morning, and that didn't change. But the movement throughout the day, because I'm on my computer majority of my workday, so find that consistent movement has really been lacking, and I feel it in my body. So do you have any tips for all of us out here that are working behind screens all day long, other than the obvious of getting up and taking breaks, but any good tips for us?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think a lot of people have struggled with that, especially during COVID and maybe more work time at home, not changing locations. I love the idea of setting a timer. and creating that break in the pattern so that you commit to moving at that time. Maybe it's every hour, maybe it's every 2 hours, making it part of your schedule so that it's just what you do. And that's the sort of calendar blocking that we talked about earlier. How do we commit to that thing? By making it part of our schedule and blocking it in. And so that's the most powerful way that we can do that during the day, because there's always something more important to do. And there's always something that we feel like can't wait. So a powerful thing we can do is block that in and make that commitment to get up at least every second hour. Every hour is even better. Yeah. And change locations, you know. Yeah. Yeah. That's the biggest recommendation on movement is commit and make it part of your routine by blocking it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
There's
Beautiful.
a note from our friend Jill. She said, I love the Wake Out app. It's short but effective movement on a timer that you can use throughout the day. So
Yes.
there's a tip. I'm not familiar with that one, but Wake Out app.
Wake Out app. I love it. I love it. That's beautiful. And I love that it's timed. And so it can keep you focused on just a small amount of time. And all those small movements, just like the ones we had growing up, they keep us active and strong and committed. So I love that. So we're moving on to our third pillar today, where we're talking about the power of gratitude and its impact on our health. And I'm curious if you could tell us in the poll by answering, how appreciated do you feel? Do you feel very appreciated, sometimes appreciated, or very unappreciated? So we're going to ask, what does it mean? Why does it matter? And what can you do with gratitude? Sometimes appreciated. Okay. Some people feel very appreciated. I love that. Some are neither. Some feel unappreciated. And sometimes people feel appreciated. Beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about that gratitude. What does it mean? Being thankful. That's like the ABCs of gratitude, using our manners. Notice, how good would it feel to use kind words when you address people? You know, that's pushing the easy button today. I think, just like Andrea mentioned, during, COVID and less time in front of people, we've had a less of an opportunity to practice that. But what would it look like if we used kind words to always address people? What if we noticed and acknowledged when good things happen to other people, not just as it relates to you, but something that they did genuinely well? I wonder how many times during the day or the week we do this. What about at home? How do we acknowledge the good work of others? How do we view other people's actions with positivity and recognize them without judgment? Seeing the best in their intentions and actions. I worked with a social worker and a therapist, and we talked a lot about appreciation being one of the most common treatments that she uses in her session. And she talked about the power of appreciation being seeing someone through the lens of best intentions. And I love that. How many people do we know who are genuinely malintentioned? Probably not very many. And at the Health Coach Institute, we like to talk about this paradigm we have that says every action is an act of love or a cry for love. No exceptions. What would it look like if that was our lens? And finally, returning kindness. That speaks for itself. How do we give back? How do we get involved in a cause that our heart connects to? I'm on the foundation of the St. Paul's Hospital board of directors. And as the treasurer, you might think it's all about money, analytics, reports, and decisions, but it turns out that two things are especially true. Every decision we make centers around improving our staff and patients' lives, and we take stewarding and stewarding our donors' gifts very seriously, like it was our own. So I get more involvement, or I get more out of my involvement than I could ever give. And I'm curious, how could you return more kindness in your daily life? And how would that reduce your stress and increase your energy? So we're asking why gratitude matters. And when you have an attitude of gratitude, your life is already abundant. We're not looking for more, but we can. We can look for more, which is point number 2. So I think it's also true that we see more of what we look for. If we look for all the bad drivers on Circle Drive in Saskatoon, that's what we're going to see more of. But if we look at all those bad drivers as capable, on purpose, doing their best, we will have patience for them when they cut us off instead of flipping them unfavorable signs. So we do see more of what we look for. And we don't have to be an either or, like Andrea talked about in our opening. We can be happy with what we have, and we can want to create something new. When did that not become okay? Does it have to be selfish or ungrateful? No. Maybe we'll want to grow more in order to share more. What would that look like? Sometimes we sabotage ourselves a little bit here and don't appreciate what we have created and where we are going because we think someone else might feel bad or small. Maybe we think we might hurt somebody else's feelings if we're grateful for what we have. Maybe we just want to be accepted, so we play small. Well, what happens if we are grateful and appreciative of ourselves first before others? What else might open up? For me, I think about what if instead of going to my husband's mom's house for Sunday and eating Sunday supper and eating two massive bowls of salad, an entire plate of supper, a dessert, and then falling asleep on the carpet? How else might I show appreciation rather than doing all of that, what I think she might love, instead of how I might show love the way I want to and appreciation? How have we sabotaged ourselves in those kinds of ways in the past? So sometimes we feel, I think some of us have felt moderately appreciated or somewhat appreciated, but sometimes chronic underappreciation can lead to feelings of resentment, anger, physical stress, overwhelm, or even inflammation. And finally, celebrating ourselves is hard. I went to a conference in Austin in 2018, and I had the pleasure of hearing Dr. Sean Stevenson speak. His nickname was a 3-foot giant. He was born with this disease that caused him to have brittle bones break often in his body. And by the time he was 18, he'd actually broken about 200 bones in his body. And they thought he wouldn't live past the first 24 hours of his life, but he lived till past 30 with sheer resilience, determination, and mostly gratitude. And there's so many writer downers from that conference, but one thing I really remember is the idea that we don't have to put our glow on low to make other people more comfortable. I loved that. It was a very powerful presentation. So what would it look like if we talked to ourselves like
I
we
was
would
just gonna
someone we love?
I was just gonna say, Nicole, can you repeat that again? Put our glow on low.
Yeah, we don't
How
have
did
to
you say
put
that?
yeah, we don't have to put our glow on low to make other people more comfortable.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
I was just going to comment, I love this idea of gratitude in terms of forming habits, because,
yes,
sometimes we think that, well, I'm just not wired that way, or, it's reasons why we aren't. And to
yes,
me, it's like anything that you're talking about with health, it's just a habit, and we can create
yes,
new good habits and have rituals around being grateful.
yes, we can. And what can we do? That's a very good question. We can appreciate someone else and ourselves. We can say something appreciative to somebody. What would it look like if we did that every day for the next 7 days? It might be fun. And what would it look like if we told ourselves, I love you, and meant it? You can meditate in quiet reflection by yourself, or you can try a free app. There are many free apps online. I use Headspace. It's about $70 a year. I love it. Quiet reflection can reduce stress, which can have a direct connection to inflammation or reducing inflammation in our bodies. Increased levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, can have a very detrimental effect on our sleep, blood pressure, thinking, and even the likelihood of depression. And meditation helps you think more positively about your experiences and your surroundings. And it makes us more aware of our own thoughts and actions, our habits. And that's the connection, Andrea. I love that. So earlier we said that our habits are great predictors of who we are and what we will do. And meditation can help us connect to those habits more clearly. And finally, journaling. Very powerful way to connect to and create sharpness of memory. You don't even have to be a good writer to get started. You could just use a $2 notebook from Dollarama and keep it close. Dedicate 5 or 10 minutes to writing down your thoughts and feelings that in a way that you wouldn't do with your device. And notice what happens when this comes up for you. So our final pillar, as we get to the finish line, we're super close. I'm curious, what do you do, or how often do you do something to take care of just yourself? This is our last poll. Is it very often, sometimes, or never? And we're going to look at relaxation quickly and ask, what does it mean? Why does it matter? And what can you do? So when we're in we're just waiting for the results. Oh, often. Some people do it often. And some people do it very often. And some people do it sometimes or occasionally. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. We have a lot of people who are very interested in their self-care. So being relaxed is being free from physical tension or anxiety. Our parasympathetic nervous system, also known as our rest and digest system, or that feel and heal response, is activated. We have reduced cortisol production, and this is the optimal state for digestion and healing. When this system is kicked in, our respiration and heart rate is reduced. In other words, we're in a relaxed state. So this stress hormone called cortisol, Jackie referred to it as the get up and go hormone, but it's also the hormone that's released when we're stressed out. And studies show that increased cortisol can lead to increased weight, especially around the middle. So it's true that some people tend to gain weight around the middle, and they probably likely experience chronic low-level stress. So finally, it's okay for your body to save energy because you're safe. When you're relaxed, your deadlines, the kids, your boss, your spouse, your extended family, they're not threatening your calm. Your heart rate is slower, blood vessels are less tight, and you can just relax. So why does it matter? Because you can have better digestion and absorption in a relaxed state. You have stronger metabolic power, and we're finding more balanced cortisol and more pleasure chemicals like serotonin that promotes better digestion, and dopamine, which increases our feelings of pleasure, are also being released too, and they enhance learning. We're more likely to reduce our weight. Maybe it seems counterintuitive, like we should be running around and super busy and stressed out in order to get things done and lose weight, but it turns out the opposite is true. More stress equals more cortisol equals more appetite. And this is where emotional eating can be a factor. But in a relaxed state, the opposite would be true. So what if we could get more things done than we think in a relaxed state versus a stressed out state? In a relaxed state, what if we were less moody and irritable and rather more creative and focused? So finally, what can we do? Here's the good stuff. Let's do something naughty, like seriously unpredictable, something you wouldn't normally do and no one would see coming. I love this. So let's do something bad, BAD. It's an acronym. B stands for break free from routine. A is act naughty, and D is do something fun and crazy. Sometimes our rebelling strategies are dysfunctional or outdated, but as we become more health conscious, maybe we want to revise our naughty strategies and take a break from our routine, but still have the experience of being fun. Maybe it's a spa day, day without your device, going through the express line with too many items, dyeing your hair a different color. Let's just get naughty for a little bit. Deep breathing. Deep breathing is a very powerful way to trick your body into activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So whether you're in road rage or a bear is chasing you, like Dr. Jackie mentioned, or you're in fear of missing a deadline, you can slow down and activate your relaxed parasympathetic nervous system by deep breathing and trick your body into thinking it's in a relaxed state in only 2 minutes. Magic. So finally, we can make a nourishment menu, and it contains things that really fill your bucket. What if you wrote it down and created a list and kept it close? Maybe it's a bath, some flowers on the table. Maybe it's lemons like Andrea has behind her. They look so pretty and are so bright and shiny. Maybe it's a snazzy goblet that you drink from, listening to your favorite music. What about wearing your favorite slippers? Write that down on a list and choose something just for you every week. You might think, how can I have time for this? But later you might find, how can I get everything done unless I do this? I can't. So as we come to the end of our webinar today, sometimes people feel stuck in their health and can't move forward because they feel like their list or their menu of options is limited. But here it is. This is the list or the menu of options we considered today. And instead of the same old things, what if we could expand our menu of options? And then we recognized that this wasn't an exhaustive list. There can be more. But just like One Right Diet out there isn't just one thing on this menu, of options that appeals to everyone all the time. So just like we're looking for balanced cortisol, we don't want it too extreme and stressed, but we do want some get up and go. We're looking for balanced health, and we acknowledge that we can't get this done 100% of the time. But what if we had some tools like this to interrupt our patterns and help us create new habits? I love this. And like I said, as we're getting close to the end, I'd ask you to ask yourself, are you open to the idea of having more of what you want in your life? Are there any bad things that might happen if you get what you want for your life and your health? How do I invite abundance into my life? At the master health coach level, the level that I'm at, we have a powerful paradigm, which is a concept or theory. And it says that most people think things are happening to them and miss the beauty of it all happening for them and by them. So what if you were sending out to the universe what it's mirroring back to you? What would that look like? What if it's not happening to you? What if it's happening by you and for you? So I'm curious, how will you direct your intentions in the next 7 days in order to get more of what you want? And it's true that accountability is that glue that's going to keep us connected to our why and keep it top of mind. Maybe that's a health coach for you, supporting you and holding you accountable to that best version of yourself. Maybe it's a message on the fridge, or maybe a scent or style of music that holds you capable. keep showing up for yourself and taking those baby steps. And what if accountability didn't equal misery? What if it equaled celebration instead? What if we did that? What if we celebrated all those baby steps more because that was enough right in that moment? And here's the truth of it all. For us perfectionists, the trouble with all of this is having it figured out and all in place before we get started. What if we didn't have to do that? We've likely been mastering our existing habits for a long time. So wouldn't it be better to start and tweak rather than wait for the perfect time, the perfect ideas, the perfect workout attire, or the perfect meal plan? I leave you with this thought today, that the idea that we all deserve a life of vitality and we have the potential to create it for ourselves. So I love the emphasis on for ourselves, but it doesn't have to be by ourselves. It's okay to need support too. And I love talking about health habits this way because it has to do with so much more than food. We can shift our habits if we want to. And the good news is we have so much choice. Ultimately, what we do or don't do will have an effect on our body. And I think affect the greater or lesser chance of disease or contracting disease. And at the very least, it might make our response to disease less painful, less expensive, and less long lasting. And it might ultimately create more joy and pride in our life and our body right now. So we've come to the end, and I sincerely thank you for your time. I've loved being here. I've loved sharing information. I've loved what you shared in the polls. And I'm very grateful to Andrea and Sutton Benefits for hosting me. So thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. That was fantastic. I got so many takeaways from it. Your nourishment menu at the end was really good. And like you said, these are things, we know, but it's just, yeah, you made me think about some things differently and some really good reminders. And, I'm sure many of you had this comment where I'm like, oh, my food tastes so much better when I'm camping or I'm at the lake. Like, why does it always taste better? And you really made me think of it today when you're in a relaxed state and I'm out in nature and I'm feeling grateful and you're having this amazing meal with your friends and family. Everything's just slowed down and it does taste better, and because you're just so much more mindful of it versus just rushing through every day. So
yeah, you
that
just did it
awareness,
all.
that awareness is just so important. So yeah, so many good takeaways. So I know we're coming up to noon, and I just want to tell everyone to hang on because same as Tuesday, we have some great prizes at the end. So you'll want to stick around. So just a few things, same as last time. We have some other great sessions coming up, and I just want to give you that opportunity. If you didn't raise your hand the last time, Erin's going to pull up a quick poll on our workplace mental health leadership program. Our next one is being held on June 8th and 10th, and it's a fantastic program. This is meant for HR professionals, leaders, and organizations to help you bring that culture of mental health into the workplace. So just do a quick yes if you want to invite for that. And then the second one is Stuart's webinar on the 3 biggest retirement fears and how you can overcome them. So he's done this session before, and we get amazing feedback from it. And talking about stress, of course, financial stress is one of the big factors, and there are some amazing takeaways that you'll learn from Stuart on May 18th. So if you'd like to participate, get an invite, just say yes. And then our third one is our coaching connections on June 29th. And this is an accredited course with CPHR, and it's on benefits administration. Our expert Stacy Frost and Jesse will be hosting that webinar. So thank you, everyone. And again, thank you to Nicole for your enthusiasm, your energy, and just your passion for all of this and helping us all take those baby steps forward and having good intentions as we move forward in this marathon. So now for our prizes. So our prizes today, we have 5 to give away. And it's a complimentary 1-hour session with Nicole. So you'll have 1 hour to talk about your specific situation and get some feedback and wisdom from her. So first 5 to say yes in the comment box, you will receive that prize. So thank you, everyone. I see the chat box firing up. Awesome. So that is a wrap. Nicole, any closing comments before we say goodbye to everyone?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. And I guess the only comment is I wish it could be in person and I wish I could see faces and reactions. And that's so valuable for me in understanding how to connect to people. But I feel so connected to this material and really appreciate the value of these webinars and how we've grown, you know, from webinar 1.0, building resilience with Betty Ann, and recognizing the impact of this pandemic on our health. Through Dr. Jackie, and understanding how our gut connects to our brain, and then how to put that into practice is where I land. You know, what can we do specifically and what action can we take now that can be easy and fun? It doesn't have to be hard. And I love, love, love your connection of everything at the end. You were eating it and camping, it tastes great. And you're engaging with your family and you're moving less quickly. You're really slowing down and engaging your senses. Like that is the magic of health habits that last. And you'll probably want more of that. You probably love that feeling. And when we connect and recognize those feelings and what they're associated with, we can interrupt the negative patterns and behaviors that we're having right now and choose something different on that menu of options, because it's not as limited as we might have thought it once was.
Awesome. Thanks,
so much
Nicole.
magic.
And I'm going to figure out how I can be naughty tomorrow.
I knew it. I thought this might come up.
Dye my hair, buy new shoes. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do something.
Do something. Every week we should do something.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Day.
Thanks to everybody joining in, and have a great rest of your week. Thanks, Nicole.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.